Welcome back to the Your History podcast. We're back with Ymisa and Stephen, who are here to finish off one of the most insane stories, but also amazing testimony and amazing miracle that God has been able to just show off just how supernatural He is and the authority that He has over just blessing a family into something that they could have never actually prepared for, but through God's urging in the spirit, they were able to prepare for something completely tragic, but also unexpected. So they're here to finish off that story.
So we're like right on the line, and so he was coming to the point where I was like, oh wait a minute, he's gonna come around me and he's gonna be directly in the road. So I just kind of turned and put my hand on his head and like pushed him. And it was all just kind of one moment. Like I didn't have time to, like, we knew a car was coming. We actually knew a car was coming for a while. We didn't necessarily realize how close they were, but like we knew a car was coming. That's why we were kind of gathering on the side. Like we were like, all right, kids, like relax, the car's coming. Like she was saying, in her part, like this is normal. We do this 3 times a week, and we're used to people driving crazy. That's why we have all these standards in place. Our kids know the rules. They know what to do. And so it was just another routine thing. I have to push my kid's head back into the grass all the time. It's just natural. It's not even something, I wasn't even cognitively thinking about it. I just, in one moment, I was like, oh yeah, he's going to be in the road. Boop, simple. But, yeah, we didn't realize how close the car was. And so as I turned and I remember feeling his hair in my hand, I remember seeing like kind of like a tannish or like a grayish color in my eyes, and then that was it. It all just happened so quick, and I remember hearing like a loud crash, and then it kind of felt like I was flying or something. I remember feeling like a superhero, like I had some sort of superpower or something. Just very euphoric, like, ooh, kind of, I'm flying. And then I hit my head really hard, which kind of like woke me up. I remember kind of like watching my legs. So I'll kind of try to show for the camera. So when I got hit, I hit my head on the windshield here, and then kind of flew in the air like this, and then came straight down. So that straight down of me hitting my head on the concrete is what kind of like jolted me back awake. And so I remember like watching my legs kind of like fly down in front of me. It kind of like bounced and like landed in the ditch. So like my body's like half in the ditch, half on the road. And I remember laying there for a second being like, dang, that hurt. And just kind of taking it all in, and I was like, yo, I think I just got hit by a car. I remember laying there, my eyes were closed. I was like, no, like I'm definitely, like, I was kind of replaying the couple little moments. I was like, yeah, I was just in the air. That's why I felt like I was flying. I hit my head hard. I just watched my body come down. Like, yeah, I got hit by a car. I was like piecing it all together. Yeah. I was like, no, this is real. Like, it just happened. And then I was like, oh, this is real. This is like, I like immediately spiraled. Because as my mind was like reversing the last few moments, I remember the last thing I saw was Aiden coming to the road. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, he's dead. I was like, there's no way he's alive. If I flew through the air and land, like his face would have been to bumper. Like that's the height it was. Like the bumper would hit him directly in his face. If I flew that far, that means the car was going fast enough. He's dead on impact. And I was like, wait, I'm actually in a lot of pain right now. I was like, all right, let me check and see if I'm paralyzed. And so I like wiggled my toes and I was like doing like this type of stuff with my fingers. I was like, okay, my spinal cord's intact. That's good. But my neck hurts really bad. I know I fell like straight down on my head because I remember feeling that. And I'm just kind of walking through this little train of thought.
While you're laying there?
Yeah, while I'm laying there, I'm just kind of speaking out loud now, like what was happening inside of my brain. And I was like, okay, I'm not paralyzed. At least I don't think I am. My leg hurts really bad on my left side. oh, my face feels kind of warm. That's weird. And so I like went like this, and like blood was just dripping immediately. And I was like, oh, that's not good. You know, like that's a lot of blood really quickly. And then I was like, all right, let me see if I can like, oh, actually, right before I started checking for if I was paralyzed or whatever, what got me out of that like darkness, is I heard her praying with the kids. Yeah. So whenever she talked about that, of where she like gathered everyone together, like, hey, let's pray for Daddy real quick, and she was speaking over life, or like life over me and stuff. That's actually what I heard her praying and crying out to God, and that's what I was like, oh, let me like make sure I'm okay. And so yeah, then I check, I make sure, okay, all right, I'm not paralyzed. I realize I'm bleeding. That's pretty scary. But I was like, all right, let me see what I can do. So like I push myself up like this, like I'm kind of like leaning on my elbow, and I look down and the grass is red. And I look to the road and the road is red. Like everything is just covered in blood. And I'm like, well, I think I'm bleeding out. Like that's, yeah. So I, worked in the medical field for a little bit. I know enough to know, all right, let me try to like keep my brain active. Because I want to make sure I don't fall asleep. And so I started looking around, and then that's when I make eye contact with her, is whenever I kind of sat up. So I made eye contact with her. I did give her that little nod of like, I'm okay, like make sure the kids are good. And then I looked down and I made eye contact with Judah. And I did see like the life like come out of his body. He was like, and he actually asked me like, Daddy, are you okay? And I nodded at him. I was like, I'm good. Help mommy with the baby. And then I was like kind of tired. So I was like, all right, I'm going to like just come off of my elbow really quick and just try to catch my breath and keep breathing. But at that point, I was started to become aware of my surroundings. So like the noises started to happen. I heard sirens in the distance. I heard Ymisa like screaming at the top of her lungs, praying. I heard the kids crying. And then I felt a hand on my chest. And I didn't know it at the time, but we've found out now since this point that it was actually the neighbor that lives across the street from us, who's a nurse, and her daughter, I think, is a nurse, or she's in nursing school, one of the two. But they just so happened to be driving to Dairy Queen, and they decided to take the back road, and they saw everything happen. And so she got out of her car, and she tells us that I was trying to get up. I don't remember trying to get up, but she said I was trying to like actually get up. And so the hand on my shoulder, she was actually pushing me down so I wouldn't stand up. And she was like, hey, it's okay. Like the ambulance is on their way. My daughter is helping like with the kids and stuff like that. Like you guys are good. Just stay still. You don't know if anything's broken. Like you got to chill out. But I was just trying to give her some sort of like, I'm all right. Like I feel okay. Like I'm in a lot of pain, but like, mentally I still felt with it. Like, yeah. And the paramedics kept asking me a series of questions over and over again. Like, do you know what year it is? Do you know what day it is? Do you know your birthday? Do you know your name? What's your favorite color? Just like all these, and it was like on a rotation. It was like 5 or 6 questions over and over and over again, like every 30 seconds. And so I was answering all the questions well. I remember getting to the hospital. I remember them telling me they were taking me up to get a CT scan. I remember being in the machine. I remember them transporting me back down. And I remember when she got there, I remember her putting her hand on me. But what was crazy is that whole time I thought I had my eyes closed because I had a headache. But when she told me her story, my eyes were open. They just had the little pin needles. So I actually had lost my eyesight. I was fully blind from about halfway through the ambulance ride. It's the last time I remember seeing anything. So I thought I just closed my eyes because my head hurt, because I had a crazy migraine, as you would probably expect, right? But I had like a crazy migraine. So I was like, oh man, so I thought that my eyes were closed since the ambulance ride, but I was just blind. Wow. And so fully lost my eyesight. Didn't find that out until like the 3rd day in the hospital, where she was telling me her story. I was like, hold on. No. I thought my eyes were closed. She was like, no, baby, like your eyes were open. Like the whole time. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. So fully lost my eyesight. And I remember her being there. I remember the neurosurgeon or whoever was there, the person that was talking, just saying like, there is a small brain bleed. Obviously brain bleeds aren't good, but like when it comes to brain bleeds, like it's not very large. So like, you know, it could be a lot worse. And we're just going to take him up to the ICU. We're going to get him stabilized, clean up his wounds and things like that. And then whenever the neurosurgeons come in around 3 a.m., they might have to do a small operation just to make sure there's no additional bleeding. You know, so obviously, yes, that's serious. That is brain surgery, but like, you know, it could be a lot worse. Like we see worse than this all the time, and people come through and all that. You know, so it was pretty positive the way that they were talking. And then they started transporting me up to the ICU. And as they were transporting me, I was talking to the nurses, and I remember telling them, like, I don't feel right. Something feels weird. It feels like ants are crawling behind my eye. And I kept saying that over and over again. I was like, nah, like, you guys gave me medicine or something? Like, ants are crawling in my eye right now. And they were like, no, like, well, they were like, yeah, we did give you some medicine, but like, it might make you a little tired, but like, just relax. We're going to get you up to ICU. But they were still asking me questions over and over again. They were doing this for hours. Well, it felt like hours. But they were doing it a little bit less often now because I had kind of proven that I was cognitive. So they did their next round of asking me questions. Hey, what's your favorite color? How old are you? Do you know what year it is? And when they got to do you know what year it is? I said 2015. And then I blacked out. So like obviously at that point, I don't remember anything until waking up in the hospital. But what happened after that, they obviously realized something was wrong. So they rushed me back to an emergency CT scan to figure out what had happened. Because typically that means that the brain bleed expanded or something burst or something like that. And that's exactly what happened. So the minor brain bleed became a major one very quickly. And it was essentially my brain was bleeding so much that it started to shift my brain over to the left. So there was like a ton of intracranial pressure. And so they had to rush me to emergency surgery to try to save my life. The scans and stuff, I think I have them on my phone. I'll show you afterwards. But I have the first one where it's like this. You can see my brain, and there's like a little tiny little bit of white in that. What the white is the intracranial pressure. So that's how we can tell the blood is there. So the first one is like this small little thing. The second one is like a huge, like half circle that's filling up like a quarter of my skull. Like it's like drastic how much it changed. And those scans were taken like an hour and 20 minutes apart. And so it went from being a really minor bleed to life-threatening. You know, my neurosurgeon tells me that just from the pressure alone, when he was showing me that second scan, he was like, I want you to understand that just from this pressure alone, you should have severe brain damage. Like severe. He said, you should probably be a vegetable. But, you know, he was like, even if that worst case scenario didn't happen, I should not have been able to talk, especially not when they pulled my tube out. Probably should have had to relearn how to use all motor function, learn how to feed myself again, learn how to use the bathroom by myself again, learn how to walk again. That's just from the pressure alone. That's not even from the brain surgery. So he was telling me that with the pressure, with the intracranial pressure and the brain surgery on top, there was a less than a 1% chance of survival, period. Not let alone any cognitive brain damage, anything like that. Just for me living through all of that was less than 1% chance. But the fact that I'm living and have no cognitive like defects, like I'm talking now, like, you know, I'm back at work again. You know what I mean? Like I should be dead. Like that's the second follow-up appointment at the neurosurgeon's office. So this is like a pretty special like moment for me. So it's kind of hard. I haven't talked about this in a while, but he like was on his rolly chair, and I could tell like as soon as he came in, he was kind of weird. Like he was again. I've already talked to him a few times at this point. Like we're you know, we're pretty cool. But like I could tell something was off, and he was kind of like antsy and like he was like trying to make small talk, but it was super awkward. And he finally just sat down on his roller chair and like got uncomfortably close to me, where like our legs were like touching, and he grabbed my hand, and he was like caressing my hand and just stared into my eyes. And I didn't say anything, but I was like, what the heck is going on? And he was like, Steven, I just want to let you know that you're a miracle. And his voice was shaking. I'm like, mine is now because I'm just thinking about the moment, but like his voice was shaking and there were tears in his eyes. He was like, you shouldn't be here. Like, you shouldn't be alive. And he was, the reason for that second appointment was they had just had another CT scan, and he was like, your brain looks perfect. He was like, obviously I can see where we did the operation. I can see the scar. I can see, on the scan, I can see where the screws are, and I can see where I did the cutout in your skull and all that stuff. He's like, but like, he said, there's like, everything looks fine. He was like, I think you're going to have 100% recovery. And so he just had that like really special moment with me. And for him to use the word miracle in the way that he did, I could tell that he was fighting the urge to say it. Like, he didn't want to say it. I remember having this experience in the hospital about 10 minutes after they pulled the tube out. I remember watching him walk around the feet of my bed, and they had just taken out, so my voice was like super raspy, so I was like, good morning. Like it sounded like a frog or something. But I remember when he heard words coming out of my mouth, he froze and he locked eyes with me. And I felt like the Lord like gave me a glimpse inside of his brain that he was like, no, like, what? There's no way. He just said good morning to me. And he was trying to like, it's like I could like watch the gears turning. He was trying to figure out like, how did he just talk to me? I was just in his skull yesterday. Yeah. Like there's no chance. There's no chance he just said good morning. And I like saw this happening, or I felt like I could see it happening when I was laying in the hospital bed. I think that by the time we had our second appointment, it had probably been like 6 weeks since the original time that I saw him. And so I feel like during that whole 6 weeks, like I was probably bothering him, he was probably playing all that, and it's funny, like I actually prayed for him. So the second night that I was in, or really it was that first night, it might have even been the first and the second night I was in the ICU, but I was alone. Everyone has to go home. So I had this very intense experience with God where I felt like I was laying there and he had just kind of like opened up my mind and was just dumping things in. And it was followed up with just a lot of prayer. A lot of it was just gratitude of like, thank you for saving my life. Thank you for having my son be alive. Thank you for, a lot of it was related to that. But then he kept putting people on my heart to pray for, and he was giving me like specific things to pray. And the neurosurgeon was one of those people. And I prayed something for him that I've never heard anyone pray before, or that I've never prayed before either. And I asked God if he would torture him with my face. And that's what was bothering him so much. Mm-hmm. That's why he said it, that this is a miracle. Like I should not. It was like the fact that I got into his office unassisted, like no one's sitting there with me. I'm having a full conversation with him. Like it was just too much for him. Right. Like he was just like, he sees it all the time. Like this is normal for him to have an operation and like it be successful, but success is not full recovery normally when it comes to brain stuff. It's supposed to take, 12 months minimum to even get to that type of place. And it's only been, I don't know, 6 months. So there's just miracles on top of miracles on top of miracles. Not to mention, this is actually one of like my favorite miracles in it. We had been like consuming a lot of cannabis. Mm. And so it started getting towards the end of last year, and all of a sudden I started getting like super convicted, like I need to stop. It was like really bothering me. And so I did, but it wasn't until like months later after the accident where I had the epiphany
where I was like, if I would have not listened to God back then, my blood would have been thinner because I would have still been smoking and stuff. It thins your blood. So I would have died from bleeding out because my blood would not have coagulated fast enough. It's just, there's so many layers to like God's hand being on everything. Even months and months and months before the accident, he was already preparing us for what was coming. And then I think we talked a little bit about this last time, but like the leading into the beginning of this year, we just started feeling the urge to like start praying and fasting on a monthly basis. And so we started doing all these fasts leading up to May, where like we didn't know what we were fasting for, but we both just kept saying like something's coming, like something big is happening, some transition, some like new season of life. Like we kept saying that for months. And so it's like all these things together is just, it's crazy. Like he really was preparing us for something. And the main takeaways from all of this really happened in that first week in the hospital, really the first 2 days in the hospital, where I felt closer to God than I have ever felt in my entire life. I literally felt like I was laying in the bed and he just like opened up my mind and was just dumping things into my mind. And the 3 main takeaways were this. Number 1, the life is more valuable than we could ever know. I think that's a pretty common realization that people get when they're close to death. It's just like everything gets so clear. Like all the stuff that we're stressed about, all the stuff that we're so focused on, distracted by, social media, and like, we want to stay caught up on our favorite TV shows and stuff like this. Like none of that matters, like at all. And like we woke up today. That actually matters a lot. Like the fact that we have breath in our lungs right now is so valuable. And the Lord revealed to me that second night in the hospital the value of life, and how one of the enemy's greatest deceptions on mankind has been the devaluing of life, so that we actually take for granted the very gift that is breath in our lungs every day. The imago Dei, like the image of God. The ruach in the Hebrew is when God took the dirt and he breathed the breath of life into Adam, is ruach. The biggest deception is that we've forgotten the value of that breath. And so that's number 1. That life is more valuable than we could ever know. So that comes down to so many practical things. Stop getting worried about this stuff. Stop getting caught up in your job. Stop wasting your life on social media and Netflix. Like, go live your life. Spend time with your family. Cherish the moments. Like, the second one is we have more people around us than we could ever know. That goes both family and friends, but that also goes lost. So it's people in general. So obviously the first leg of that is I've never felt more loved in my life. The amount of people that surrounded me and my family during that time, like, and I always knew we had people. It's not like I was like, oh, I'm so lonely. But the enemy convinced me I was. If you would have asked me before the accident, even though I knew the truth was, I knew that there were people around us, but internally the truth had not solidified. I still believed that I was alone. But also opening my eyes to, we have so many more people around us than we know. How many people do we walk by every day who we don't give 2 craps about? We don't even give a second glance to. We don't give a smile to. We're just looking down, or we're focused on our task. How many people are hurting and broken and lonely, and they need us to be that person for them that we just completely neglect. So that was a big one. And then the third one, which is the most important, is that God loves us more than we could ever imagine. Laying in the hospital that second night, of him giving me a taste of his love for me, but not just for me, for humanity. It's not, I think one of the disservices that the church has done is made it personal. It's not personal. It's communal. God loves us, as in humanity, all of the world. He doesn't just love you, he loves us. That means something. And in America, we miss that. If you go back through the whole Jewish and Israelite tradition, they are a people. Nothing for them was individual. Their life was communal. The way that they thought was communal. The way they interpreted the scripture was communal. And so we have to rewire that part of our brains. Yes, does God love me? Of course he does. But it's actually a bigger and deeper meaning than that. He loves us as a human race. That means when I see the other person, I have to also understand God loves them too. So it's not just he loves me and it's my side versus their side. No. He loves the other side. It's all of us together. And the perfect picture of that love just so happens to be exactly what happened when I got hit by the car. He is the Father who puts his hand on our head and pushes us out of the way of the car that's coming that we don't even see. We're lost in our own world, our own, whatever the heck we get distracted with it. We're just over here playing with our hands and wandering around. We don't even see the fact that we're about to get smacked with the bumper of a car. But he's the loving Father that takes the hit for us. And we get to a point, because we're in Christian culture, that we take even the gospel for granted. But we don't feel the weight of what Jesus actually did. Feel like it truly is my mission in life from that second night in the hospital. That is my job, to be preaching those points for the rest of my life. But not with my words. It has to be lived.
I think that also falls into ministry too.
Yeah.
With everything that occurred, it pushed us so much closer to the Lord. And we've been in ministry many times in our lives, especially in our relationship. And for me, I never felt that pull in ministry. I kind of felt more like an obligation, Stephen's, in the worship team, or he's the youth pastor. I have to have some sort of, role as well. And I've always just kind of felt obligated in it. And after the accident, I remember the first couple weeks, Stephen had mentioned, we consumed cannabis, and I never felt convicted about it during my time with the Lord. It honestly helped me a lot. I felt God meeting me a lot during my high times, and I felt like the Lord would meet me. And when he met me on the side of the road, it was different. And through Stephen's duration in the hospital, I didn't touch anything. I had no time to even think oh yeah, I'm gonna roll up real quick. And that wasn't even a thought in my head. And during that time, I didn't go through any withdrawals. I didn't have any of these feelings of I need it or anything like that. It was just God's presence was so sufficient, and it was all I needed in that moment to get me through. And I remember Stephen said, those 2 weeks, when he went back to work, I kind of felt those 2 weeks where, I've, was able to finally get back into my normal rhythm of all right, this is my time. I need to unwind. And again, when I was in those moments, I did not feel that conviction, but I slowly started feeling less of that presence that I had when, it was so fresh. And I kept thinking to myself, man, I need that. I want that back. I want to be in that presence again, but without Stephen being hit by a car or almost dying. I want,
Please.
I want that presence again, but I don't want to go through the trauma of it.
Yeah.
And in that moment, God was really working on me. And, I never felt that, blatantly, you're a sinner, you're going to go to hell because you're smoking weed.
Never felt that. And it's just the way he
patiently waiting on me to kind of be like, hey, I've met you so many times. Come meet me now.
Yeah.
And it's like I needed to meet him. I wanted to meet him. Like at that point, I was like, this doesn't even get me high anymore. Like this does nothing for me.
Yeah.
It doesn't give me what I'm craving. So I finally decided, like, yeah, I'm done. Like I'm gonna meet you now because you've met me. It's time for me to come and pursue you and constantly yearn for you.
Yeah.
And to be able to serve in that way, it's just amazing to see how God truly prepared us for everything. And now it's like, you know, I love being in ministry. Like I truly love it. And I never thought that that's something that I would ever say, like truly. And it's beautiful. It really is. And so I feel like, you know, that was what he was really molding us and preparing us for, because, you know, we have the honor now to be in a position where we're able to like lead the young adults. And it's been a true blessing that from what the miracle has brought. Like it's still pouring out. And I don't think it'll ever stop pouring out.
Now you said something that really triggered this thought for me. I probably look like an idiot on the camera. I'm just over here zoning out, just thinking about this.
It's the TBI.
But you were talking about being numb, and that really hit it for me. I think I've spent the majority of my life in a numb state. I feel like especially the American church needs to hear this. The biggest strategy that the enemy uses is not going to come in the form of some blatant, like, right in your face jab or left hook. Like, he's just going to lull you into numbness, and you're going to live your entire existence doing ministry and going to church and doing the things, but you're going to be completely numb to God's actual love for you. Because if he can keep you there, then he can actually get you in a place where, if you've never experienced it truly, never have the true drive or motivation that no, my neighbor or even my enemy, I have to love them too. Like that will never fully click for us if we're numb. I want you to ask God, and like really ask him, like fast, like not social media fast. Stop eating. Deny your flesh what it wants most, which is food to keep it alive. Like true biblical fasting. Seek his face and beg him to remove the callous from your heart. Because I feel like so much of us, myself included, you included, have been walking around the majority of our Christian lives full of callous and full of numbness, and we had no idea. And so that's my prayer for all of us, that we would truly seek his face, plead with him to remove the callous from our hearts, the scales from our eyes, that we would truly be able to see those truths, that life is more valuable than we could ever know, that we have more people around us than we could ever know, but most importantly, that he loves us, all of us, more than we could ever imagine. Because if we can truly grasp those things, our hearts will melt. The callous, the walls will come down. And that is actually what our world needs.